Hey, welcome back, y'all. So today, going to be doing some routine maintenance on the Cobra. Going to do an oil change, and I'm also going to be changing out the transmission fluid. So a little backstory: ever since we got rid of the downsized and got rid of the Subaru and the Supra for the Raptor, been driving this more often, especially since it started cooling off. Been enjoying it. If you haven't watched that. Little, obviously that little short I did where, doing a quick pull again on the interstate. But I've noticed that it's starting to shift a little bit stiffer, and I'd already planned to do the oil change once fall came, but because of I've noticed that the shifting has been a little bit stiffer than it usually was. I decided, well, maybe now's the time to go ahead and change out the transmission fluid as well. Never really, a lot of people complain about the T56 being really hard to shift and all this and that. I've never had an issue with that. The clutch in it, I think it will be needing to be replaced soon. There are times where it doesn't, I think it's starting to slip a little. But the transmission itself has been a trooper for me. So that being said, I got to get the front of the car jacked up to do the oil change and to change out the transmission fluid. So let me get the car jacked up and I will be back. Okay, so it's a 5/8 socket for the drain plug if you've never done this before. And I actually grabbed a little bit too long of an extension, but that's okay. You always want to have because the oil is going to shoot out, and then it's going to want to, let me get the socket ratchet off so I don't get those coated in oil. Haha! Actually didn't get hardly any on me. That's a first. Normally I end up looking like I came out of an oil spill. But anyway, so gotta let that drain. Gonna remove the oil fill cap. I've got breathers on this car, so there really isn't a vacuum to pull, but I'm going to go ahead and remove the oil fill cap. And anyway, now I'm just going to be waiting on it to drain. And then once it's drained out, I will go ahead and change out the filter and start putting the oil back in. So I'll be back. All right, so now that the oil's pretty well drained out, I'm going to start this. Get her good and tight. Now we move on to the filter, which is right here. Don't mind that. That's my electronic oil pressure sensor wire, but the filter's right here. These are kind of a pain and they are messy, so get the pan under here. Actually, let me just see if I can't break it loose from here, and then loose enough to undo it by hand. If anybody knows a way to avoid all that, I am all ears. Please comment it down below. But I have yet to figure out a way to keep the oil from draining out of there. So okay. Let me go get the other filter. So people will tell you, and it's to take some of your oil out of your new oil, but I usually just get a little bit of this oil that came out of the filter, the old filter, and lube up the O-ring. And it's just to lube up the O-ring so that it doesn't tear the O-ring while you're trying to tighten it. She's in there tight, I think. Alright, so I'm going to wipe all this up and I will be back. Alright, so you don't know how to do this. You're just going to pour your oil in. You got to watch your speed, obviously, otherwise you make a mess. But I'm adding 6 quarts to it. There's old forum debates that, you know, say 6.5, 6. I've always just put 6 in this thing, and it's never showed low, so that's what I always go with, which is, you know, when it comes to the motor on this car, I've never had an issue. Not even going to worry about that last little bit. Okay, close enough. Make sure you put the cap back on. Well, let me get a rag. So, I'll clean that before I use it again. My OCD, I'm wanting it to be upright, but it's just not wanting to cooperate. All right, so ordinarily, to finish your process, you would want to go ahead and check your oil level. Run it so it gets oil in the oil cooler and oil through the oil cooler and the oil filter and up in everything. But just a real quick startup to prime everything. Then you check your oil after that. You don't want it to get hot, but just enough, you know, say 5 to 10 seconds or so. Check your oil after that. I'm not going to do that right now because next I'm going to be moving into the car to show you about the transmission fluid. So stay tuned. Okay, this is going to be messy for me because I put the jack stands in the wrong spot, but the drain plug's right here. And all you got to do is use the head of your 3/8 ratchet. Well, if I can get on it. Oh, good God, I had that. This thing's on here. Okay, I'll be back. I gotta get something to give me. Okay, just gonna use a wrench on here. Not got a lot of room to work here, so in fact, I'm gonna have to move y'all to get out the way. So, do this. All right, get the drain plug back, or drain pan back under here. It's still gonna make a mess because I put the jack stands in the wrong spot, but it's okay. Yeah, made a mess. Well, okay. Let me get y'all out of here so I don't ruin my GoPro. That's awesome. Alright, well, I got a mess to clean up, but I'll be back when it's done draining out. Okay, so there are two ways of doing, I've got the, so I'm not going to be able to clean all that until I get the car out of the way because it's sitting too low at the moment. But there's two ways to put, I've got the drain plug back in it. Just reverse of taking it out, obviously. To fill it, there are two ways. You could use the fill point on the side of the transmission, which is just another plug that sits up higher, but it's actually, I don't remember for sure because I've never done it, but I believe it's the same, it's the detent where the you do the Venom mod. But that's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it from the shifter. So I'm going to get the car on the ground so that the doors stay open for me, and then I'll show you all of that. So hang on. All right, so this is, I've already got an MGW shifter in this thing, but this would essentially be the same for changing the shifter on any 79-04 Mustang is pretty much the same, except for how you deal with the console. But 9904, they're pretty much all the same. So first, you gotta remove your shift knob. Obviously, I went and washed my hands, and if you've been under your car, you should too. Once you get that loose, let me try to set y'all so y'all can see this. Don't know that this is going to work out in my favor. There we go. So you're just going to there we go. Just like that. Pull from the back, kind of up and back. Comes right out. And then you got to disconnect your cigarette lighter. Set that out the way. So I already have the MGW shifter in here, as you can see. I also have a bunch of other stuff from the stereo that was done before I bought it. This little foam insulator, which isn't even stock. That came with, I actually made that, if I remember right, or maybe I bought it. I think I bought it like that. I don't remember. It's been so long. So, once you do that, you got 4 8mm nuts on each corner. Get my my 8mm wrench. Ratchet, I mean. Okay. Be careful on the front too. You don't want to ding up your interior, especially on the Cobra, because, you know, these parts ain't exactly cheap, and you can't really get them anymore. Maybe one day LMR will have everything, but even then, it's not original. Anyway, I'll be back. Let me get this ring out, and then I'll show you the next step. Okay, now finagling this ring out. I have some extra stuff in here, so it's kind of a pain, but because that radio stuff that's in here, but it'll be all right. Oh, that's right. So let me backtrack. I forgot, because I already have the MGW shifter in here. I need to remove this because my rubber grommet is still attached to the ring. Sometimes they're not. So I need to get my Allen keys and do this, but I'm going to mark my position on the shifter because I've got it where I like it. I don't want to change it. So hang on. All right. So because, as I've said, I've got where I set where I like it. So I went ahead and marked it with a blue Sharpie real quick, just to kind of give myself pretty close of it. All I gotta do, it's kind of a pain, is take an Allen wrench. I'm hoping this, let me kind of have to hold the shifter. There we go. Okay. Set that right there. So now I should be able to pull this out. And you'll notice you have to, on the MGW, you have to trim this a little. Mine's just cut up a little bit, but it's okay. Now I need to get, all you gotta do is get the 4, I believe these are 13mm bolts undone, which I'll be grab my wrench or ratchet and I'll be back. So just like with the 8mm bolts, you want to be careful not to ding up your interior. When it comes to the front ones, I usually take on both the 8mm, the ones and the 13. I'll take a wobble socket or wobble extension. Oh, careful you don't lose those. Alright, I'll be back once I get the shifter off. Alright, so pulling the shifter out. That's no good. Gasket's still intact for the most part. So I'm going to set that off to the side, out of the car, because that's got fluid on it. I'm going to my funnel in here. And then I'll start putting oil in. So, you gotta be careful. Obviously, you're in your interior, in the interior of your car, so you don't want to get oil in here. This is the Pennzoil Synchro Mesh. You're gonna add 4 quarts. And be careful to go in too fast, because some leaked out from, not in the car, but it bubbled up over outside of the funnel on the, or below the funnel outside of the transmission. So I'm gonna have to go clean that up, or clean that when I get done. So you got to take your time with this. But that's one. I'm gonna do the other 3 and I'll be back. All right, so I already have the Cobra Bob silicone shift gasket. Although if you didn't want to use that, you put a bead of silicone around. Obviously you can kind of see where it mates up, and you'd see it when with the shift, with that out of there, the shifter kind of, or the whatchamacallit, the transmission outline. It's not a very thick mating surface, so it's pretty obvious. But when you set the shifter in, you want to get the ball down in there. Maybe I'll put an arrow. And then kind of, this is really not fun doing one-handed. Okay. Get a bolt started. Oh, don't fall out. Okay, that one started. Get this one started just to get us lined up. Make sure we're square. So I would highly recommend that you start all 4 of them. Make sure they're starting okay. You're not cross-threading before you tighten any of them down. I think I had that issue when I first put the shifter in. I went to tighten all. I've got 3 of them in, and one of them just did not want to line up. Okay, so they're all tightened up. Tightening up. It's just a matter of I'm gonna do that one-handed, obviously. Seems like shaking for days, ratcheting for days on those. Okay. Now that that's in, go ahead and get the frame and rubber grommet back in. Again, it's a little bit harder for me because I've got all this extra stuff in here, but just kind of wiggle it in there. Don't force it. Make sure you get the hole from the rubber grommet around the shifter shaft. Make sure you put the shaft in the hole. So before I get the shifter in, I'm going to go ahead, since it kind of gets in the way. If I had thought about it, I would have done this first. I would have taken the shifter out first. I didn't, so shame on me. And oddly enough, for my car anyway, these 8mm bolts seem to have more tension on them than the dang 13mm bolts on the shifter itself. Anyway, let me come back once I'm done tightening these. Okay, 8mm bolts are in. I'm just gonna slide this on in there. Start tightening it down. Just one turn. Didn't take much, but to keep it from moving anyway. But you don't want to crank these too much, but you do want them tight, because otherwise the shifter, if you shift hard or whatever, it might move on you. That's a little unsettling. Now, one thing I actually am gonna do while I'm in here, since I'm thinking about it, is just ever so slightly raise the shift handle itself. I'm gonna keep it in line, but I just want to raise it just a little bit. If I'd have thought about it, I could have just done that, I guess, with the shifter assembly, but there's so many ways you could adjust these MGWs. It's what's cool about them. Also, it's kind of what makes it a pain to install. When you're first putting this in, you're trying to figure it out. You're like, crap, no, I don't like it that way. I want it a little bit further. Okay, that's it. Get my little foam piece. That I'm gonna have to move all this stuff out of the way for. Like I said, I couldn't even, this might have come with Cobra Bob's setup, or it might have come with the MGW shed setup. I don't remember. This was, the MGW shifter was one of the first things I did with all this when I got the car, and that's been years and years ago. So I don't fully recollect what all that was, where this came from. But in all reality, you probably get this, I'm pretty sure you can get this all at Home Depot or Lowe's. So now that that's in, shifter or bezel down in here, and just want to put it, snap it in up top first. Nope. Just too busy talking. Don't forget to clip in your cigarette lighter. That's in. Thread on my shifter. Okay. With all that being said, that should be the conclusion of all this. Just one more project. I might report back at the end, and add that to the end of this video of if changing the transmission fluid actually helped the shifting. We'll have to see. I don't know. I'm going to be pretty busy for the next couple weeks. So I don't know if I'm going to get a chance to do that. But anyway, by the time you guys I'll probably, can squeeze this video in. It's probably going to already been quite a while since I've done this. So time will tell. I don't know. Got a lot of videos I got to put together and get published. Real time for me. I haven't published any of the videos of when I had the Fox body in the shop. So, and that's already, as you can see, I moved it out. The old Fox is sitting out here. I had to move it out this morning to get it out of the way. I'm not quite done with it, but it does run enough for me at least to get out and move it. But anyway, that's another project down. Until next time, I'll be back. All right, y'all, so it's the next day. And I told you I would try to update on whether or not changing the transmission fluid improved the shifting, and turns out it did. Did make it a little bit easier. As I said, I've never really felt the complaints that everybody has with the stock T56. Yeah, it's got a little bit more force. Is it a T5 and a Fox body? No. Is it an MT82? No. But you know what? It's stout. Yeah, they are known for braking. I think mine has actually been upgraded at some point because I just don't see a 10 spline input shaft lasting as through the power that this thing's putting out, and I'm not easy on the car. It does have a spec clutch, or at least a spec pressure plate in the car, so at some point somebody swapped the clutch. Maybe they upgraded some stuff in the transmission while it was out. I don't know. Never had the transmission apart from the motor, so I figure one day I will. Which brings me to my next point. If you watched my little quick short that I did getting on the freeway the other day, you notice at the top of third, it felt like to me it felt like it was spinning, or that the clutch was slipping in the top of the gear. Did the same exact thing today in warmer weather. Didn't do it. So that tells me, plus I had full, well, I mean, I had a little bit more weight in the car. I had a passenger, but it didn't spin, didn't do none of that. So I think it was just tire spin. So that's good. I do plan on having to replace the clutch at some point, but because I'm going to get a lighter clutch and maybe do a twin disc. But anyway, point being, yes, changing the transmission fluid, regular maintenance, turns out helps. So anyway, that's probably going to be the end of this video. So like I said, until next time, I'll be back.